in camera shot. Hi everyone. Right, so I'm going to do quite a quick cook today because I've been asked to, and because it's going to be like a breakfast, which I'll adapt to be my lunch, so you can see how I would bulk that out a bit to be lunch. And also, actually, it was on the website this week as one of the unbranded recipes that we give to personal trainers. It wasn't the video they got this week. The video they got was, I think, the coconut and cauliflower vegan curry, but it definitely was up there, and I think it was called Solo Herby Omelette, which gives you a clue as to what really quick cook we're going to be doing today. So obviously, if you're interested in seeing some more recipes and some more videos, you go over to the Facebook page, which is Fit Pro Client Recipes. Meanwhile, we're going to do this really quick cook. So first thing I've got to do is switch the hob on. Now, if you watched yesterday, you'll know that I only have one non-stick pan, and I dug it out. And it's quite a large one for an omelette for one. I would say normally you'd go with a smaller pan, but I was a bit stuck for pans, and I didn't fancy trying to do an omelette in a non-stick pan, I have to be honest with you. I'm not a professional chef, so I'm not exactly that adept at things. Don't expect me to flip omelettes about, or if we do pancakes on pancake days, flip pancakes about, because that's a recipe for disaster. Just going to heat up a little olive oil there. Obviously, on the recipe website, the recipes are all macro counted, should you use that system, and with proper weights and measurements. So it would say something like a tablespoon of olive oil or vegetable oil, whatever it might be. Could even be butter. I know the French love using butter in omelettes. The problem with butter, if you're cooking with butter or frying with butter, is it has a very low burn point, and most of us are not good enough cooks. Well, some people are obviously, to not burn at that point, burn the butter, which is not going to leave a very nice taste to any food. While that heats up, I couldn't find my big glass bowl, so I'm going to attempt to quickly whisk a couple of eggs in a small bowl. Now, the thing is that you can adapt any recipe, and that's slightly what these are about, how to adapt recipes. Just checking that's heating up a little bit. To suit your needs. So for example, 2 eggs is not going to be a huge amount of protein for someone for breakfast, particularly if you're quite bro. What I would do, if you still wanted to keep the kcals low, but you wanted to up those macros on the old protein, is I would use 2 whole eggs, and then I would bulk it up with egg whites. And when I used to work out at a gym a lot, that's exactly what I did do. So I would do 2 whole eggs and then 4 egg whites to bulk it up. And sometimes I'd even go as far as to whisk up the egg whites separately so they were all light and fluffy. So it would look really big on the plate then, because that folded in makes a really fluffy omelette. And just finish it off under the grill rather than just all in the pan. I don't mind runny eggs, and I'm certainly not scared of, you know, any salmonella issues. But in an omelette, I tend to prefer them firmer. So that's just me though, and it is personal taste. So as you can see, seconds to whisk an egg. If you don't have a whisk in your kitchen, use a fork. Does the same job completely. Now, to give it a bit of flavour but keep it fresh, what we're going to do is just quickly add a little bit of salt. Now, I personally think, unless there's dietary restrictions, that although I don't use salt in a lot of things, with eggs, salt is great. I don't find eggs have that much taste, personally. But like I say, everyone's got different taste buds. I'm also just adding a bit of pepper. It doesn't have to be freshly ground. You know, there's no difference between ready ground pepper and freshly ground pepper as far as I'm concerned. It's pepper. It could also be a teaspoon of paprika, or less, depending on your taste. I'm going to use fresh herbs today. I wouldn't normally, but I didn't want to insult the French, particularly doing their classic herb omelette using non-fresh herbs, because they would be quite insulted. But the idea is these are store cupboard cooking videos, and therefore you would actually perhaps not necessarily have fresh herbs in. As you can imagine, my herb and spice rack for dried stuff is enormous. I had a little fish through and I found that I had some dried oregano, some Italian seasoning. I didn't have as much as I was expecting actually. Some herbs de Provence and some basil. And I happen to have some fresh basil in this mix anyway. Normally I'd also probably have some dried parsley, and I think there was some dried mint, but I wasn't really going to suggest that you have mint in your eggs, to be fair. So what I'm going to do is chop some of these fresh herbs up, and the fresh herbs that I've got here are parsley, chive, basil. Really readily available. I actually popped into Asda this morning to get these because I didn't have any fresh herbs in. We did, and then we ran out. I used, I think, some coriander in that coconut and cauliflower curry I was just talking about, and I'm not quite sure where the rest went. I think, oh yeah, when I did the fresh tomato pico de gallo the other day on one of these lives, I used some of the fresh herbs there as well. So what we're going to do is throw that in the pan, which hopefully is going to sizzle. It's not sounding very sizzly. Should be hotter than that. What have I done to the pans? Oh no, it's smoking away. I'm not being a complete idiot then with cooking the omelette. Right, and then to make it cook really, really quickly, you stir it up a bit like it's scrambled eggs. It helps you cover the base of the pan, particularly as this pan's huge. Like I said, normally you should realistically use an omelette pan or a much smaller pan, especially if it's just for one, and you haven't done that bulking up that I've just mentioned with the egg whites, because I'm going to end up with gaps in this omelette. This is a bit like playing one of those, do you remember those little plastic games you used to get with balls and like mazes that you used to get in Christmas stockings and things? Trying to fill these holes in this omelette is a bit like chasing that ball round to get it in the hole in the game. Right, okay, that's just going to cook through. That literally takes 2 minutes. While it's cooking through, just add the fresh herbs. It already looks really, really pretty, doesn't it? Just give you a little pretty shot of omelette cooking. Now, these standalone hobs do not get that hot, to be fair. If this was being done on my proper oven hob, this would already be cooked, and I wouldn't have been obviously demonstrating to camera quite so much about moving the egg about. So really cooking these eggs is literally 2 minute job, 2 minute, maximum 2 minute job, unless you bulk them up with something. Now you can, if you wanted to make it a much like an evening meal, for one, say you're just cooking for yourself and you've got some spare veg in, like some mushrooms and tomatoes and all that, onions, obviously you can bulk it up with that as well. This is just for me to stay a little bit true to the French kind of cuisine at this point. Like I said, I'm going to make my lunch with this, so I've got some extra bits and pieces here. One shop bought flour tortilla. I used them yesterday when we did Taco Tuesday. You can check that video out on the stream as well if you want. That was a much longer video because it was a bit more hands-on. I actually made 2 things in half an hour, not just one. I actually made the girls a bread and butter pudding as well while I was there. I've got, still from yesterday, even though it was on its sell-by date yesterday and therefore half price yesterday, but to be honest, it's still fresh. I've got a bit of salad here that was already sort of pre-chopped and pre-washed. I'm just going to chop it down a little bit more, not necessary. Well, I would chop it down a bit more if I can get hold of the knife, to put into that tortilla. See, that omelette's basically cooked now. It's not going to come out smoothly, I already know it's not. Because like I say, in a slightly smaller pan, that amount of olive oil would have given you a lot more, as I would call it, slide, for it to come out smoothly. So we're going to have a little bit of a disaster getting this omelette out, but never mind. Let me just shift it off the heat. There's a cooked omelette, and then there's as rubbery as hell omelette, isn't there? Right, then what I'm going to add to this is, the other day we made the pico de gallo, which is like a Mexican tomato salad with garlic and onion and lots of tomato, and I can't even remember, to be honest. What else did we put in it? I actually genuinely can't remember now. But anyway, it's delicious. It's been in the fridge a couple of days, which actually means, don't worry, it's still fresh. The flavours that were originally in it have marinated into it even more. So it's going to taste even better. It's a bit like a curry. Have you ever noticed a curry tastes better like the next day or the day after? I think the stews are the same, to be fair. Right, then we're going to get this omelette out. Oh, I am such a professional. That came out in one hit. I'm actually quite pleased with that. Not saying I was nervous about that, but I was nervous about that. I'm not saying hi to anyone again. I'm really sorry. It is simply because I am a little bit useless with technology and not great. I even actually managed to get hold of my daughter's iPhone today so that I could see if anyone was commenting or just watching and say hi to them or sharing. Sharing's always nice. Sharing is caring. And then, of course, I didn't switch it on. So that was me being a little bit useless. And we've also discovered that I have no idea how to wrap these things. Do trust me though, the food tastes good, and that's the main thing, isn't it? If you're going to give recipes to your clients under your brand, or give them access to your recipe website, all branded and colour coded to you, where they can get hold of recipes and do meal diaries and track their weight and measurements if they want to, you want the things tasting good, don't you? Right, and now we're going to do the usual, where Karen gets to eat in front of you, and I have actually eaten today. Normally I go, oh, I haven't eaten breakfast. I have actually already had something. Like I say, I've made this into a lunch. If you don't mind cold egg, you could actually make it in the morning and take it to work. I would let it cool off a little bit more before wrapping it in foil and taking it to work. Definitely make sure there's not too much juice in those tomatoes, because that's going to make all your wrap soggy. You don't want really hot things going into something that you're going to wrap in foil and then put in some kind of box and take to work, because obviously it's going to sweat out, make stuff soggy. If you were just making this as a breakfast, well, you could wrap it up and make it like this. I'm thinking macros, you know. I think the omelette that went on the site, I can't remember, I think it was something like 16, possibly 16 grams of protein, but it was under 200 kcal. Basically, for an omelette for one. I'm pretty sure it was. So anyway, I'm going to give this a taste, and I'll let you know whether this is any good or not. I suppose it depends whether you like salt and herbs. An egg. Do you know something? I think the French have something here, because sometimes keeping the cooking simple, not going over the top, because I do love my spices and I like my curries and things, but keeping the food really simple, a few herbs, a couple of eggs, a bit of butter as they would use. I did get the butter out because they would use butter, I didn't use butter. Means that you really taste the food, if that makes sense. And it does taste really good. But I mean, you've yet to have a video where I spit my own cooking out and go, God, that's disgusting, don't ever make it in your life. But it might happen one day. No one's ever going to invite me out for a dinner date now, are they? Haven't seen that. Right. One reason it's short today is it's meant to be a quick breakfast. The other reason is that I'm next, after I switch this off, going to be making a video actually for the members of Fit Pro Client Recipes, where you don't actually see me, you just see one of the recipes that we publish out of the 10 every week as a video, as well as a written recipe, so they can use that on their social media branded to them. So you don't see me, you just see hands. I'm sure you've seen those videos before. Even if you haven't seen ours, you'll have seen people like Tasty do them, speeded up and all fancy. I'm about to do one of those. It's probably going to be seitan, which is a very high protein vegan meat substitute. Partly because we're getting lots and lots of coaches or members who are asking for more and more vegan recipes. because they're getting more and more vegan clients, because it's obviously, as you know, gone up 600% in the US, and that can be reflected in the UK as well. But also because my daughter's vegan, so if I make a couple of Satan loaves, it might save my kitchen being destroyed by her cooking. And you know, I said she was back from London last Monday night. Before I could even make this video today, I had a bomb site to clear up, and that was after I cleared up last night. She managed to do that in the morning before going to work. So I'm going to finish eating that before it goes cold, and I will catch you later. Not sure if I'm doing one tomorrow or not, but you'll get a notice on my Facebook if I am. And thank you for watching if you did. Thank you for sharing if you did. Thank you for commenting if you did. If you didn't, why not? I do those things for you. Okay, bye then.